Hi, I'm Tessa Callaghan, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Keel Labs. And I beat the often path by developing new materials, and in particular, fibers and yarns for textiles that are made out of seaweed.
Welcome back to the Beat the Often Path podcast. I'm your host, Ross Palmer. Joining me today is Tessa Callaghan, the CEO and co-founder of Keel Labs, makers of a seaweed-based yarn that they call Kelsun. In case you didn't know, the textile and fashion industries are a mess, and they contribute enormous amounts of waste to our planet. Tessa and her co-founders set out to create a fully functional yarn with a significantly lower environmental footprint than conventional fibers. They're harnessing a biopolymer from kelp to achieve this, and kelp is one of the most regenerative organisms on our planet. They've raised tens of millions in funding for their concept so far, and I'm just so excited to see what comes next for them. So here's Tessa Callaghan of Keel Labs. Welcome to the show, Tessa. I have to ask you a question to begin. Are we doomed? Is humanity doomed?
That's a really good question. I certainly err on the side of optimism, and although the future is seemingly not the most promising right now, I think that there's so much action that can be taken to rectify the path that we're going towards. And so I think it's really a matter of choosing the right direction that we want to go towards. And if we're able to do that, we have a beautiful future for so many generations to come, but it does require intention and action yesterday and today and every single day going forward.
So how did you get on this path where you decided to take this form of action?
Yeah, it was a bit serendipitous, honestly, and I think it really derived from, honestly, desperation and necessity. So I didn't start off in life thinking I would be an entrepreneur. I studied design and textiles and had intended and was working in the fashion industry. And along with my two co-founders, who are also working, in adjacent fields in design, we're really frustrated and struggling because I think we went into the industry thinking we would have a lot more say and a lot more ability to make change from the inside than we did, given all the attention that both new materials and sustainable innovations were having. However, that was not the case. Whether things were unaffordable, they weren't on the market yet, or, we kind of found that after some experimentation, especially as a knitwear designer, they weren't actually hitting the mark of what we needed to be, which was fibers and yarns, which is how we work, and they needed to fit into the supply chain and offset, if not rectify, the plethora of issues that kind of legacy materials have. So we were really looking at it from, just from an analysis perspective. What do we need? What could I do to get my company to move the needle? And what are the parameters that are required? And so through that, we knew we needed to go fast. We know it needs to be available. We know, we can, only innovate so much in order for us to hit those marks and still retain the kind of cost benefits of other fibers. And so with that, it really narrowed our focus to the ocean. And from there, what is available? What's being harvested? What polymers or resources do we have access to today that we don't need to establish and spend billions of dollars to create? And so that kind of led us to a lot of experimentation, a lot of, rudimentary, I guess, studio experiments with various resources, and found that we were able to kind of mimic certain types of fiber manufacturing with this polymer that we bought off the shelf that's derived from kelp. At that time, it was very much like ramen noodles. Honestly, it was pretty basic, but we ended up entering and winning a competition called the Biodesign Challenge back in 2016. And from there, won a couple of small grants, continued our work, nights and weekends because it was fun. But then we started getting outreach from some of the world's biggest brands. I mean, quite small number at the time, but we realized that if the most powerful billion, if not trillion-dollar companies were reaching out to these
Dang.
students exploring in their, design studios, that
That's both a
I
good
think,
thing and kind of a depressing thing at the same time,
yeah,
isn't it? It's like, we
I
got
think
no
these
better ideas. Are you even working on this? We are
absolutely,
not.
yeah, 100%. Let's just
We
reach
have
out to
dedicated zero time and resources to this. Do you got
we
an
have
idea?
we have endless resources, billions of
Right.
dollars to spend, but you guys that just won $5,000,
Yeah,
you
you're
still
the
seem like
experts.
you could do this. But yeah, I mean, it really brought to light the severity of the issue and the
Hmm.
demand. And so, from there, we were, really considered how can we take this more seriously? And, that led us to, again, applying for a number of grants, and we ended up applying for an accelerator in London, actually, and we're originally from New York, Alex, Aaron, and myself. And so we had a decision to make of, okay, do we all quit our jobs and our careers, move to London, do this thing that who knows if it's going to work out or not, see what happens? And really, there was only one right answer to that, which was yes. And from there, it's been about 4.5 years, and certainly a crazy journey, but I'm glad that we took that leap of faith and really committed to this.
That's awesome. So, how long were you in the UK for?
About 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, so we participated in Rebel Bio again, which is in London, and then towards the end of that curriculum, we also entered kind of like a part-time accelerator called Fashion for Good in Amsterdam. And during that time, which was later 2018, we also got approached by our first, or I guess our second investor, but to fund our seed round, which was Horizons Ventures. And that really allowed us to take things to the next level, hire critical scientists and experts in the field, and yeah, take the next steps.
So, you were studying, you wanted to be in the fashion world. You were studying fashion, you were studying textiles. And some part of you noticed that the industry had problems. Some part of you noticed that it was unsustainable at that time, even though you never set out to be an entrepreneur. See, that was your first mistake. Your first mistake was noticing that it was unsustainable. What you should have done is just not notice that, continued with the status quo, and then
Yeah,
just been blissfully unaware for the rest of your career. So surely you
yeah,
must regret
absolutely.
that.
I mean, it does sound like the easier decision, and you're
Right.
absolutely right. I should never have, none of us should ever notice the problems
No,
that are, facing
because
us
there
on a
aren't
daily
any. They're all
basis.
made up. So
Yeah, much easier to just push that
you
subconscious
just
voice.
bury that voice deep, deep down, get a few decades under your belt, and then maybe on
Yeah,
your deathbed have some regrets about something. But at least that's my plan, anyways. That's what I'm
yeah, I mean,
striving
it seems
for.
like you're really doing a fantastic job of that. You're
Thank you.
definitely not facing it head on
Thank
right
you.
now.
No, not at all. Yeah, so you've decided to make your life easy by going against the grain of a massive industry, a
Yeah,
multi-billion, multi-trillion, God only knows how big the industry actually is. And lo and behold, they take interest in what you're doing. And lo and behold, you get funding for what you're doing. And suddenly this passion project turns into a viable business and you're thrown into this with, it seems like, two other co-founders. So, how has that whirlwind been the last 4 years? Has it been positive? Has it been scary? What kind of things have you experienced so far?
yeah. I mean, I have to say I've probably experienced every emotion, the entire spectrum of emotions throughout this
Yeah.
journey. Um, it is a lot, and uh, certainly not an easy mentality to have, as you're saying, to go up against, I think one of the largest industries on the planet, and try to get them to do the right thing, and to make a change, and also take both leaps of faith and action, and responsibility to their supply chains. But I would say it's been, one of the most exciting, inspiring, ambitious times of my life, and I can't ever imagine doing anything else at this point. Certainly, there's a lot of challenges, and it's not easy, but the reward is so high. I mean, even just to be able to build a team and a space where people can come to work and know that they're contributing to something greater than what they are in their silos, or what might be happening in more niche, or standard commercial operations. And so to that degree, I just feel really grateful above everything else.
That's so cool. And for those who are wondering about the process, so you mentioned it's a polymer that's derived from kelp. And in order to do this at scale, we would need to plant more kelp, create more kelp in the ocean, which is itself a positive thing because kelp has all kinds of positive benefits for sequestering carbon dioxide, various other good things for our oceans. Do
Yeah,
you think, knowing what you know now, that it is scalable? Is this just one of many solutions, or could this truly be a fiber that replaces plastics and other microfibers in
yeah.
general in an industry that large?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes to all of the above, in that, we chose this resource not only, as you eloquently listed out, for the plethora of benefits that it provides, but also for the fact that it is currently, being harvested and extracted globally, and it's a massive existing supply chain. So, yes, it's available, and yes, we do intend to be a part of its expansion and to promote, increased growth and harvesting, and not only with the companies and facilities, but also, ideally with the positives that we're seeing in global legislature as well. That being said, I think that, and I truly hope that we're one of many solutions. One of the issues, or one of the largest issues that I think that has contributed to bring us to this very dramatic point that we are today, climate wise and pollution wise, is that we're just focused on single solutions or single products. You have polyester, or you have cotton, or you have nylon or wool, whatever that may be. And because of that, you're just draining those resources so dramatically. And for us, although, we certainly see ourselves as becoming a predominant replacement and addition to the multitude of fibers that are out there, we by no means can or should be the, ubiquitous solution for everything. We really want to and intend to promote, other companies, other initiatives, other solutions, for us to diversify the offering. And it's such a big space, and there's so much room. But I think that truly, when we're looking at what will move the needle around long term, you know, positive outcomes within our supply chains, it's all about diversification in every single way, shape, or form.
Well, one of the things that I really enjoy most, especially about a story like yours, is because it's great to hear about a story where somebody started in one thing and then switched over to another thing. Because that is, to
Yeah.
me, the most inspiring thing. Somebody who grew up with their priorities straight is also very inspiring. But I think it's more inspiring when somebody makes a transition in their life, especially towards something positive. Because at the end of the day, it's that old cliche, if we could just get one person to do that, it will all have been worth it kind of thing. So now
Yeah.
that you find yourself on a very different trajectory than you thought you would have been on even 6 years ago, How does it feel on the other side?
That's a very good question. I hadn't considered that before. To be honest, it feels really good. It feels really empowering. And, as mentioning before, it's extremely challenging, but I'm a very action oriented, change positive type of person. So for me, it's extremely rewarding to be able to see something I want to do, take action on it, and be able to build something greater. And I don't think I ever would have truly been satisfied with the trajectory that I might have previously expected if I wasn't able to make a change in some way, shape, or form.
So talk to me about the origin of the new name of Keel Labs, of Kelsun, your flagship yarn product. Is it yarn? How would I address?
Yeah, so it is yarn. So we were really excited to launch our new brand. So transition from Algae Knit to Keel Labs, which functions as the parent company and platform where we're able to think about innovation in a greater sense. So rather than kind of your name literally pigeonholing you into both a product and a source, but how do we participate in these much larger, more complex conversations? Think about innovation and adaptation in a continuous sense, while also being able to develop and launch products like Kelsun, as you were saying, which is a fiber and a yarn that then gets knit or woven into textiles or other products for the fashion industry, and make sure again that diversification is always on our mind when it comes to not only our team and our work and supply chains, but also in our products and the ways that we're thinking about innovation to its core. And I think that that's something we want to make sure that we're not losing sight of.
So what's the significance or the symbolism of the name itself?
The name is so dear to my heart, and I truly, even just seeing it on the wall makes me so happy. But we were able to work with Pentagram, which is super reputable branding agency, and after I want to say hundreds of names of development and thinking about all the ways that we feel and what we believe and how we want to show up, landed on Keel Labs for two reasons. So one, you have the keel, which is the part of a ship that basically keeps it afloat. And when we think about our role and responsibility in the world, our mission is truly to find that equilibrium, that balance that a keel creates in order to maintain, again, balance between not only the world, but in particular our oceans, and rectify that with man-made intervention, while also moving forward and being able to go at top speed. So that was really critical in terms of how are we embodying who we are. And then the labs is really reflective on, again, innovation, making sure that we're always on the forefront of not only our industry, but this larger climate positive landscape that we're working within, so that we're able to react in a way that reflects the needs of consumers and of the world, and really wanted to make sure that both of those identities were encapsulated. And then when we have Kelsun, it actually is derived from a quite similar word that is the structure of the keel. So the spine that allows the keel to have its shape and structure. And so when we thought about our flagship product and our first product, having that relationship directly with this equilibrium really inspired us, and I think we'll continue to do so.
That's so cool. I love stories like that. I knew there was something. I mean, you can read it, but it's also different when you say it with your own words because I could tell that there
Yeah,
was personal
absolutely. I mean,
significance
I
there. And
think
you borrowed the
it's a
quote from
really
Walt
exciting
Whitman.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very exciting. So, in the last 4 years of doing this, what unexpected or unlikely discoveries have you made since taking this more seriously, since bringing on the scientists and the people who know more? Has there been anything that's really stood out as something that you couldn't have predicted 5 years ago?
I mean, I have to say, I think every day in a way is a surprise. Um, Not only as a startup, but also, working at this intersection of innovation and climate change and sourcing. Uh, it's really hard to predict what things are going to come up from day to day. Um, but I would say what's really been such a pleasant surprise is the amount of support that we've gotten and that we continue to receive. I never would have expected that. I mean, not only from the team that's here day to day, working super hard, dedicating their lives to something that, is focused on that innovation and exploration and a lot of challenges. And then, also outside from, your day to day people, populations, whatever, all over the world that have, reached out and offered their support and offered their kindness. And, although I'm not surprised that humans have that capacity, I'm surprised and delighted and grateful that we get a little bit of that. And
Hmm.
it I wouldn't have thought that it would have been to the degree that we're seeing. And again, I think it just goes back to that gratitude and surprise.
Well, certainly in a world where everything is so politicized and where we've come to associate online forums with just hate and bigotry and nastiness, and in the wake of this whole Twitter deal, just we've come to expect nothing but the worst from the world that exists on the internet, I feel. Because so much of it is what you say, I have a great idea, and then just 50 comments slamming you for political reasons, right? So we've come to our expectations for what we get back from that vast machine are, I think, pretty low. But at its core, there is still that element of yes, but you can reach like minded people. It is possible, and they are
Yeah,
out there somewhere. Whether they're the majority or not, that's debatable, but they're out there and they exist, and it is important to be a beacon of light, as it were, for such communities so that people know that other people are out there who feel that way. That's the way I see it, because
yeah,
otherwise nobody knows. And then it's
yeah,
even more lonely. It's better for me to know that you're out there working hard and people like you are out there working hard than for me to believe, oh, really, nobody cares.
yeah. I mean, likewise, absolutely. It would. I couldn't imagine a world where we're not just up against the challenges of the industry, but also every other person out there. That there was nobody else that was also uh, attacking this and working on it and talking about it. But I think, especially when it comes to how you're interacting, that, I think it could be easy to be jaded and to take a really pessimistic look. And I think, which is fair, a lot of companies are really tackling the real, genuinely scary and horrible nature of what's going on. Um, and rightly so. I think it is scary and it makes you feel afraid, and there's so many things around that. But I don't think, or at least the way that I personally feel, is it's hard to act when you're afraid versus when you
It
feel,
is.
as you're saying, that sense of community, that sense of collaboration, positivity. You can take one step in the right direction and things can change. And I would rather see and engage in a way that promotes positivity and forward momentum than be paralyzed by fear or of hate or whatever's kind of getting put out there by so many people that I also think just get a lot of the attention. there's a lot of good people out there, and I would say
True.
everybody has the capacity for it.
What I love is the idea of a future where you switch things out and it's not a big deal. Like if I buy a shirt, do I really care? I just care about having a shirt. I don't care what it's made of at the end of the day. Now, I care about certain properties of how it's made. I care whether I can wash it. I care whether it's durable, whether it gets holes in it. But at the end of the day, it is just a shirt. It is not the yarn or the fabric or whatever that it's made of. So it's easy to envision a future where we say, okay, shirts are just globally made from something else other than microfibers, which is a whole nother problem that we've discussed with some guests on this show.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about solutions like yours, because they just seamlessly integrate. And at the end of the day, if somebody buys a shirt, if you didn't say a word about what was in the shirt, if a shirt is a shirt and the price is the same, somebody will buy it, somebody will wear it unless it's itchy. I mean, it's those things that matter more. So that's what I like about these types of ideas. It's pushing things forward in ways that aren't even necessarily perceptible to the average person, but yet are a change under the surface. Because again, I don't think the average person is aware of what's happening in the fashion industry as a general rule. I don't think they know that.
Yeah.
But what do you think in the next 5-10 years we could realistically see? Like, where will your tech be? What would be a best case future 5 to 10 years of Keel Labs?
Yeah, I think that you actually spoke to that quite well, which is, in the next 10 years and my, my real dream within this is that, an average person goes into their closet and if told or asked to look at the materials labels, they would be shocked and delighted how much of that is from seaweeds and from aquaculture and from sources that they know are having a positive impact on the environment, and that it's diversified, and ideally that none of that is either shedding microplastics or leading to pesticide use and land degradation. And I think it's that idea of not having to know and not having to go out of your way to make a good choice. Ideally, everything on the shelf in every store should not be harming the planet. And you shouldn't have to search that out. So that's my ideal world. And I think we are getting closer to that, both through our work and so much of what so many others are doing too.
A world where you're pleasantly surprised instead of just perpetually shocked and horrified, where you just, the items around you, you look into their origin and you're happy. And you say, hey, that's cool. This fruit isn't plastic. It's not contributing. This shirt is.
I mean, I think as of today, if you were asked someone to do that, it would be a very interesting poll and data collection. If anyone wants to do it, you should go for it. But to, ask someone today, just on the street, to go into their closet and see what's in there, I think that would be, a pretty negative shock, especially if you don't know the implications of what's happening with those materials. So you could come back to that same person in 10 years and do the same thing. That's success.
Well, that's a great vision of it. And again, I can't thank you enough for your time and joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think it's a fabulous concept. Congratulations on the rebrand. Congratulations on the interest and the community and the support that you've been able to build. Well deserved. Very cool. Very exciting. I'm so glad that you have found your personal path on this. I'm so glad that the last 4 years have been so transformative for you and for your mission. And I hope that the next 10, 15 is just a constant awakening and a broadening and an exploration of these ideas that you are now on the cusp of bringing into the world, really in a much more meaningful way, it seems like.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I'm really grateful for the support that you've given as well. And, even just be able to have this conversation.
Happy to.
It's really been a pleasure. I could keep going for hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully we'll
Except
get to
I
do it
also
again
know that
soon.
you're the owner of a company. Yes.
Yeah, I
If
just
I
have a
ever make it
couple
out to
things
North
to
Carolina,
do.
we'll continue. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you ever
right. You
can
don't have
visit.
much. It's just a Monday morning.
Yeah, no
That would be
problem.
cool. But no, thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. So where can people support you? Close us out here.
Yeah, so please feel free to follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, and also feel free to send a message. We're always here to hear from everyone and definitely want to connect. So check us out, sign up for our newsletter, stay in touch.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again. And with that, the official podcast is over.